The dash is going back in. Now, this has been somewhat of a kerfuffle. The main reason being is because the complexity of where the loom needs to go to and making sure that the wires are fed in correctly. Incorrectly, rather than incorrectly, if you get my drift. Right, now, this is where having a detailed record of what you've been up to really does fall into its own. So, here I've been kind of referring back to thousands of photographs I took during the disassembly of the vehicle, and you can see how the loom runs and where it runs. Now I can already see there's a minor issue there with that wire, in that it runs over the top of the bar, and I've got it running down the back of the bar. I don't think it's going to create too many problems. There's quite a lot of connectors there though, so I might need to pull the dash forwards again in order to get that routed through. I've got all of the wires up here now for the back of the instrument pod. I've been rewiring all of the LPG, getting that all back together again. I know there's people out there that say, why are you putting it on LPG? Customer's choice. Customer's car, customer's choice. Don't keep banging on about why we're going back onto LPG. It's available, it's cheap, clean fuel. So yeah, LPG wiring is going back in again. And then just slowly working my way around, making sure that I've got every connector connected. But, like I say, detailed photographs really do help you out here. Allow you to work out how the loom routed originally. And I think the dash has been out before, because some of the wires aren't necessarily exactly as I would expect them to be. Now, there is one chunk of wire, which is the yellow wire here, which I have got about 4 miles of. And that is here. So I need to work this lot out, because I've got about 4.5 miles of this. And all of this wiring is designed to go up here. Sorry, carpet got in the way. Up here like this. Okay, so I don't know where that goes to. I'm going to have to work that out in a minute. I will. I'll know exactly where it goes when it goes. When it gets plugged in, I'll know exactly where it goes to. It doesn't go down here, because that's where the ECU is. I don't think there's a connector on there for that. Nope. So yeah, it's just be logical as you're routing around. Get everything into the right sort of place, and once you've got everything into the right sort of place, then piece of cake. It really is a piece of cake. A very complicated piece of cake, but it's a piece of cake all the same. Well, the dash all went back together again. Fixed a couple of the fixings. I'm not entirely happy with this here, because the metal plate on the back of the dash has come loose. It should look like this one here. You see that? Big metal plate. It's fixed on nice and tight. It's not on that one. It's loose at one end, so a bit of glue perhaps. I have to take the switches out and do that. Centre of the dash all went in nicely. Happy enough. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get rid of all this crap on the floor down here. So, stop flickering. There we go, you stop flickering. Right, okay, so the bitumen is coming off quite easily. As you can see, just using a chisel and a hammer. But it's bare steel underneath, and none of it is looking particularly pretty. But it's all more than salvageable. So, what I've been doing, let's get you up here so you can have a look, see. Are you going to piss in my work? You are. Okie doke. So it's just a case of getting near an edge, and it comes off. Get this stuff off, because it's doing more damage than good, and as you can hear, it's not exactly anti-drum anymore, is it? Because it's gone brittle. Which is hardly surprising, given the age of the stuff. And all of this has just got rusty steel. Perfect rust underneath it. So whether it went on and the steel was rusty, or whether it's just allowed moisture to get in underneath it, I couldn't tell you. I think though at this end of the works, We'd be mad to leave this shit in here. Happy enough so far. The scraper makes a horrible noise, but it's very good at getting in and just scraping the remains off. And then I found a fucking great leather filler. Oh yes. It's easy enough patch to weld in. Quite why it wasn't done, I couldn't tell you, but again, you can see the metal's all been bashed down. You're not even looking. Metal's all been bashed down, and then filler's been put in over the top. Cheers, previous owner. You know who you are. Fucking cock rot. Just why? Why bother? It's the only bit of rust on this floor. Fucking paint stain. Anyway, I think on the whole, I'm pretty chuffed with this. The majority of the floor is in really good order. It just wants a little bit of treatment for the rust, surface rust, and a hole welding up. That's just seam sealer up there, which I'm going to redo on the top edge anyway. There's a couple of fixings down here somewhere. Fixing just there. There it's gone. Yep. Yeah. Apart from one tiny hole, that's good. I'll cut that out. It's actually into the inner sill, that. Just needs a small patch putting over the top of it. Which is a pain, but never mind. It happens. So I'm going to go on and get the other side stripped down now, then I can put some rust corrosion treatment on there. That welded in. Don't worry about the stripe there, that's where I rattle canned the lip. Found another hole there and welded that one in as well. So that one, the furthest one, was the most worrying because it's directly on top of the chassis rail and the fuel lines are directly below it. So I wedged a whole load of fire blankets really tight up against the underside and got rid of all of the underseal from around the welded patch, and yeah, that's done that. So I think we're more or less, there's a bit of grinding back down there to do, but otherwise we're more or less ready now to put this back together on this side. One more patch of welding. Let's move you over the other side. So Monsieur Le Welder needs to come over here now. And this bit, well, it got bigger. So this line of holes here represents the edge of the inner sill, and obviously you've got the outer sill directly above it, and it had blown more or less all the way along there, so much so that it looked like, what have I done with it? There it is. By the time I got it all out, we had that chunk there and that chunk there, and I just squared up the holes and chopped it all out. That's the bit that came out of the driver's side. You can see where they hammered it all the way in order to put some filler in there. Yeah, come on, chaps. So you can see really where the hole is, or the holes are, and then you can see the line that runs along the top of the inner sill, and it just corroded badly. Moisture got in there. That's the remains of the old lip. All of that lot can go in the scrap bin. Right, now welding this bastard in. So what I've done is I've joddled the two edges and pushed it over the top. I'm going to more or less put a couple of tacks on each side and then percuss everything into place. Seam weld it this entire length. I'm just a little bit worried here, but this repair panel goes up to about here, so I might just need to trim it back a tiny bit. But first I think I'm going to have a coffee, and then I'm going to weld that in, and then I can paint the floors. Yesy McYes face, and the interior can go back together again. Yesy McYes face. Looks a bit better, doesn't it? Right, okay, welded in, painted the 2-pack epoxy paint on the floor. I'll show you what that is in a second. When that's gone off tomorrow, I shall put the Dynamat on the floors over the ribs, really cut down on the drumming, seam seal the arse out of it, and a bit fumey in there. I might have to leave the doors open tonight. I'm going to head off in a second anyway. And yes, nice, huh? That's improved. Now the paint I use, I've put away because I was tidying up. It's come down the back of the workshop. This stuff, it's Rust Buster Custom 121 Anti-Corrosion Primer. Comes in a 2-pack format. It's called 4-to-1 because you use 4 parts of that, 1 part of that. And it's very good. Wear a face mask when you're putting it on, folks. There's a thinner if you were going to spray it as well. I need probably to order some more of that. But that's kind of done that, which I'm pleased. A bite. Now, next thing I was going to look at was these heater hoses. So we've got a slight conundrum, because where the pipes go into the heater matrix, they are 18mm. These are 20mm, and the hose tails on the top of the LPG is 16mm. So what I really wanted to do was to run a pipe from here to there, which I could probably get away with a short length of 18, because an 18 is going to fit on that snugly and stretch onto that. And then I'm going to need to run an 18 from there to there and see if that fits on snugly, and if it does, then an 18 from there back to here. So I'm going to have to order a couple of lengths of 16 and 18mm silicone hose. This is the stuff that I use. I've got these bits, but these were in stock, so auto silicone hose. They do like a black wrapped kind of surface, and that's just a joiner on there. Yeah, I think once the primer's gone off on this floor, I can actually start putting this thing back together. Steering wheel can go back on again, and steering wheel can go back on again, and we can start moving this car. I want to get it started up. Once it's started up, we know we can bleed the brakes. Haven't done that yet. Yes, all new brake hoses and so forth up here. Some new brake flexes to go on the front. Yes, yesy muck, yes face. Right, I'm going to go home now because it's gone 6. I'm spending far too much time in my workshop. The sun's only just gone down. Well, it went down about half an hour ago. And yes, go and edit some videos up for you nice people to look at. Nice day. It's a Sunday. Getting this back together again. Refitted the deck panel. Lines up beautifully. Screws along the front there. That went straight back in. No issues at all. I had already checked that things like the wipers work. There's only a couple of things that I found on the interior after I already put all the carpet and everything back in. These switches up here, which we know about, I'm going to fix those. The radio wiring, which I need to sort out. This heater control doesn't quite go round to where I would want it to go to. High-low lever is jammed solid. I'm going to have to get underneath and loosen that up, or the customer's going to do that anyway. There was one other thing as well. Oh yeah, central locking doesn't work. Now the customer can't remember if the central locking worked originally or not. So I'm just going to double check to make sure there's nothing obvious that I've missed. But yes, the car is going back together. Now, what I was planning on doing was sorting out the heater hoses. So the car's still going to be running LPG. That's the vaporizer, evaporator, whatever it is. It's over there. And the way it was plumbed in with some very, very, very old hoses, which I suggested to the customer might have been hoses for just a little bit too long because you could snap them. Yeah, when you can break hoses like that, they're probably a bit past their best. So I thought, rather than putting a T-piece here and having a connection going to the heater and then a T-piece going off to over here, the other way that I favour plumbing these things in is to run a hose from here direct to the heater, run a hose from the heater to the vaporizer, evaporator, whatever it is. and then from a hose from there back to this pipe here. I think it just tidies the thing up. It also puts that and the heater in series rather than in parallel, because the heater matrix is going to be putting up more of a resistance for the water than that chap, which just the water flows straight through. So I would imagine that the heater efficiency is going to improve too. Rebuilt all of the LPG loom and wrapped it up in this nice kind of original flex housing stuff. I just need to connect up the wire to the throttle position sensor, which traditionally has a chock block. Of course it fucking does. And then really it's a case of just sort of finalising the electrics and so forth around the engine bay. So you can see we've got the alternator wire needs to be connected back into the fuse box. This isn't a standard alternator wire, by the way. The cable originally would have come up from down here and hooked onto that way, but it had broken off, so we went for, this is what the customer did, but just went for a very simple fix. Well, first off, bonnet's back on. My mate Paul turned up yesterday, so I got him to help me lift the bonnet back into place. It hasn't been shimmed out or anything yet, just wanted to get it out of the way. And there's no reason really why it needs to be off the car anymore. So I've finished off on replacing the hoses. The only one I'm missing is I'm missing a joiner to join the return hose up to the LPG, because I'm only getting these hoses in 1 metre lengths, and that is further than a metre. My calculations were visual and a complete guess. So I'm going to order another connector. Then I've been doing the flexes. So these are the two brackets. The bracket that goes onto the inner wing and the bracket that goes onto the top of the hub. Oh my goodness, here we go. Right, just double checked the pipes where they go on to the back of the caliper. They're all fine. As is predictable, the two fixings that hold this to the inner wing snapped off, so I'm just going to drill those two through again, put nuts and bolts through. That'll be fine. Then I can connect all of the brake lines up, and we can move forwards to the next stage, which will be bleeding the brakes through. And I just follow the standard workshop manual process for bleeding the brakes. It's very, very, very well documented. If you're using the Haynes workshop manual, you go to section 13, and you see this is a well-thumbed Haynes workshop manual. So section 13, and if I go to braking system 1374, because they don't actually give you, right, here we are, hydraulic system anti-lock brake system bleeding. There is a huge process that you just follow through to the letter, and you will not go wrong. Going through and bleeding the brakes on this, and yeah, bleeding brakes is all I can say. Now, first and foremost, I went round and checked every single bleed nipple was loose at the front, and there was a couple, as you can see, that one is just rounded off. Watch this. Fuck you. There was a couple like that. I had to get the mole grips on in order to get them off, and then replace them. Fortunately, while I haven't got any brand new metric bleed nipples, these are an M10 bleed nipple, I do have a number that I've been able to salvage. I've got good flats on them. So, apologies for sniffing, folks. I've popped my eardrum again. Now, I did the fronts, and I thought, right, let's just double, before we go too berserker, let's just double check that the backs are in good order. This side came undone with a little bit of effort, but one thing I did notice was we've got this kind of non-standard brake line on here. I thought, okay, well, it's kind of wedged in there, and yeah, it seems all right, it seems okay. That one, happy with. Came around to this side. You know there's a swear word coming, don't you? Well, first and foremost, the bleed nipple's rounded off, so someone's obviously been there before. Secondly, this flexi line is as weak as goat's piss. Well, goat's piss is probably quite strong, actually. So then I've been trying to get undo the brake caliper bolts. And these, honestly, they have been, because they're corroded up. We've got to the point now where that's actually moving. But they were... I had to get the long breaker bar and hang off it in order to get the bottom one. I've just had to abuse my extension bar, not the ratchet, with a £3 anti-shock hammer. And the fluid that I was getting out of the brake calipers is in here. Fuck off. It's been an afternoon of it today. I'm actually going to say that fluid, you see the colour of it? I've never seen brake fluid like that, ever. God knows when this was last changed. And this isn't just about, you know, moisture getting into it. That is disgusting. So, yes, James, your brake fluid is going to be a lot cleaner than that. But it has been causing some swearage, I'll be honest. Right. So now what I'm going to have to do, as you've seen already, remove this caliper, replace the rigid line, and get the bleed nipple out. Caliper's coming off first, see if I can't get the bleed nipple out of it. I'll do the lines tomorrow because I've just had enough of it today. It's been one of those days. It's now 6:05. Every fucking thing I've tried to do today has bitten me on the arse. In one way or another. That said, I did manage to get the hydrostatic or hydroscopic, the non-power brakes on the front have bled through. And there's some of that brake fluid in there. In fact, let's just tip some of it out into a container, because I think you need to see how fucking revolting this shit is. That will do. And this will be the reason why you really ought to breathe your fucking brakes, folks. So let's come out here to the Trocchionero. Hello, Trocchionero. Still got it. I know. Right, you can stand there while I pour this in. Okay. So there's the fluid. I'm pretty sure you should be able to see through it. Now, the other thing I can do is I have got a small moisture tester in here under, you see brakes? Brake. Little moisture tester. Quite a neat little device. Just stick the probes on the end into the brake fluid, push the button, and it will tell you the moisture content. Or it won't. Why are you not working? It's not working. Like I say, my day has been like this all fucking day long. Brake fluid tester, maybe the battery's flat. Let's try it in a puddle. There we are, puddle comes up red, so it is working. So puddle's working, brake fluid. Okay. It is actually coming up as 7%, but I'll tell you why. That's because 7/8 of the fluid that's in there is fresh fluid that I pump through the system. Less than 1%. Less than 1%. So the fluid that's come out is good. Let's put that down there. Get that wipe off using my brake fluid cloth, which is up there. It's a shame I didn't test the fluid when it first came out. But this chappy is very good. If you don't know when your brakes were last bled, just pop it into the fluid in the top of the master and it'll tell you. Anything over 3%, really you want to be changing your brake fluid. That's less than 1% at the moment. Neat, huh? But that said, it's not very healthy looking, is it? And most of that was what was in the calipers and also the pump, the modulator, etc, 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 etc. Let's pop that in there for a moment. Actually, let's go and pop it on the bench. So yeah, I'm going to need to get the caliper off, get the brake line off. We've been chuntering away, haven't we, Richard? Oh yes, right, let's pop you on there. There we are, you're there. See if we can't get this bleed nipple, so we get this pipe undone, because I bet you that doesn't want to come undone. Get the pipe undone, and thinking about it, what I might do is just, the fucking ferrule's all rounded off, so it looks like someone has actually put, oh, it did, it undid, you heard it click then? I found two flats, but as I'm turning it, it's twisting the pipe. Don't care, it's not going back on. So what we'll do, so we'll capture some of this brake fluid that comes out of here, because it's uncontaminated with fresh fluid. Uncontaminated with fresh fluid. That's an unusual statement, Richard. Right, okay, that's going to go off there. What I really want to do then is get this off, caliper off, and I'm going to try and see if I can't get the bleed nipple out. If I can get the bleed nipple out, and the caliper's going straight back on again. So fuck knows how they bled this. In all honesty, I got no idea. Oh, but the fixings were incredibly tight. Oh, God's teeth. Blasphemy, Richard, blasphemy. He needs to cut back. Now, interestingly, the fluid that's coming through the back here looks cleaner, so I'm wondering if someone put this line on and only bled this back breakthrough. Because there was all manner of bodges on this car when it first came to the owner, such as, yeah, things like the SRS airbag light had plasticine over it, blocked the light from getting to the front of the dash. Silly things like that, you know. We don't worry about safety critical shite, do we? No, 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 no. Right, this is the power circuit. So this should only let out the fluid that's in the line, rather than empty the fucking reservoir out. Right, bastards out. Now the caliper can come off. Get under there, you bastard. I know. Look at how much of the disc has actually been used here. So let's go to the bench now with the caliper and see if we can't get the bleed nipple out. You can see there, that is properly corroded in. I might be able to get it out, I might not.